All right, Apple iPhone 6. This is going to be an honest review of my experience with this device over the last week or so. This is the brand new, sleek aluminum unibody phone from Apple, sporting a 4.7-inch display, which is a huge increase over the 4-inch from the iPhone 5 and 5S days. Apple's done a number of improvements on this phone compared to its previous generation of phone. And we're going to look at all of them and compare that to some of the top-of-the-line Android phones that are out there right now in this honest look, this honest review, this fanboy-free review of the new Apple iPhone 6. Right, well, jumping right in, you can see the enormous size difference here between the Apple iPhone 5S, the predecessor to this phone, and the new Apple iPhone 6. Again, 4-inch screen compared to a 4.7-inch screen. And Apple has finally decided to jump into the big screen market. This is their first phone that features a screen that compares in size with the current Android flagships that are out there, and actually is a little bit smaller than most of the Android flagships. A lot of the things you'll see are 5 inches plus in size, but honestly, I think 4.7, and I've been saying this for a while, 4.7 is an ideal screen size. I mean, for me, fits my hand. I'm an average size person, don't have huge hands. I can reach most things on this phone. Conveniently, Apple actually includes a assist mode, it's called, if you double tap the home button, and it's not a press in tap, it's actually a double tap of the Touch ID will bring up reachability, and so you can actually adjust the screen size a little bit there. But otherwise, this phone, like I said, pretty much dwarfs the iPhone 5 and 5S screen. And finally, Apple has come around and made a phone that compares to some of the other Android phones on the market. And they've done a really, really nice job with it. I mean, I think that this screen, in terms of its quality, is up to par with what Apple produces. Excellent color reproduction, excellent sharpness. It is, of course, a Retina display, so it does have the high pixel count. It is something that's beautiful to look at. Photo reproduction is outstanding. Color accuracy, viewing angles, everything about the screen is typical of what you would expect from Apple, and extremely high quality. A number of other features that jump out at you comparing this to the iPhone 5S is the camera lens on the back. You can see that the back of the iPhone 5S is very flush. The aluminum unibody back on this is one solid piece. It does not move in any way. The iPhone 6 has a protruding camera lens, which is a bit of a design flaw in my opinion. I don't really know why they would do that when the device sits on the table. It actually sits off center a little bit, which is annoying. But getting away from that little bit there, similar to an iPhone 2G, the original iPhone, a lot of people think, in terms of the way it looks and feels. Very round compared to the very square and sharp edges on the iPhone 5 and 5S. In my opinion, a lot more comfortable to hold the newly rounded 6 compared to the 5 and 5S. They've moved the power button off to the side, which makes it easy for your thumb here or your index finger here, rather than trying to jostle the phone and reach the top and then sort of play the moving game around in your hand like that. Otherwise, it looks like an iPhone. We've got the home ring with the Touch ID embedded into it. We have our vibration switch and our volume rockers up here. These are a little bit more clicky. You can probably hear that. And the ones on the iPhone 5. Very typical Apple design. Very well thought out. Very well made. Nicely constructed. Beautiful feel glass onto. It's a different new. It feels new. Has more feel to it. More. I don't obviously still glass, but there's plastic thickness to it. I mean, it feels like that it's supposed to be just a shatterproof, scratch-proof. The fact sort of more when you hold on to it. It's just nice to hold on. Definitely has a totally different feel than the 5 and the 5S. And in my opinion, it feels really good. I really like picking this phone up. I really like interacting with it. I think, again, 4.7 to me is the absolute perfect screen size. So for me, I really enjoy hanging onto this phone, using it, grabbing it, holding it, putting it in my pocket. The thinness, the lightness, the build, A1 in my opinion. So what else has Apple done to make this phone stand out from the 5S and to introduce new features to its users? Well, the biggest thing, in my opinion, is the refined camera. I mean, one of the reasons why I love my iPhone is that the camera in it is probably one of, if not the leading smartphone cameras on the market. They've kept the resolution the same. It's still 8 megapixels, which I like. There's no need for huge megapixels in cameras unless you're printing wall-size artwork, which I guess is okay, but I'd rather have an 8 megapixel camera that produces excellent images than a 25 megapixel camera that produces garbage images. They've added what's called focus pixels to the camera, which sort of helps in focusing speed and accuracy, and it actually does work pretty well. I mean, I actually really like the focusing on this phone. I think it's much faster than it used to be. I think that the resolution in this phone is really good. They've added some shortcuts here. You can actually do things like adjust the exposure on the fly. There's a little slider here. Burst mode is really good. The same features in the camera that you would see on the 5S. They've added the Slo-Mo feature, which is really, really nice. It shoots in 240 frames per second, which the 5S actually shoots in 120. So this doubles the amount of frames per second. And I can show you a video here, a sample of some of the Slo-Mo, and it actually works really, really well. 240 frames per second. Watch the shell casing in the gun. That's so cool. And it's going to speed up again. Anyway, works really well. Really cool feature. All right, and some of the other software features that they've added to this phone, the new health app, and this is more of a health system. They're going to have lots of vital stats and information here that's going to sync primarily with the Apple Watch when it's released, but also other devices and other apps that are going to integrate using the Apple Health app, which is pretty neat. You can also put your medical ID there. So if somebody finds you dead on the street, they can look at your iPhone and tell what blood type you are and how old you are and all your hospital information. Another thing Apple has done is finally allowed the ability to add custom keyboards. This is SwiftKey. What SwiftKey does is it lets you do predictive text by swiping, which is nice. It works pretty well, about as well as it works on Android if you've ever used it. It's nice that Apple has finally come around to allowing custom keyboards. It's only taken them about 5 years to do that. Some of the other things that Apple has integrated software-wise is the new Apple Pay system, which is going to be really, really cool, and it's going to really promote the sort of use of NFC around the world. Now that Apple's done it, everybody's going to want to do it. And Apple Pay is going to be, there's actually an NFC chip, which stands for Near Field Communication, within the case of the phone. And so the idea is that you're going to be able to take your phone with you to places that have payment systems. Instead of using your credit card, use your fingerprint as your ID and just tap the phone on essentially the cash register and pay for your items with your credit card that way. It's going to be really secure and really robust when it gets implemented and when more retailers start integrating that technology into their checkout systems. Battery life is decent. I would say I get an average of a day use out of this phone. Personally, I think they should rather have made the case bigger and flattened out the camera and put a thicker battery in than try and make this phone the thinnest one on the planet. A lot of people have probably by now seen the tests on the 6 with people bending the iPhones because they're so thin. I can't comment on that and how that compares. I really don't want to ruin this phone by bending it, but battery life to me would be better served by being a little bit longer. I mean, a day I guess is fine, but it'd be nice if it was 2 days. It'd be nice if it was 3 days. So I think there's always room for improvement in battery life. Otherwise, the software in iOS 8 is probably the last thing to comment on. Apple, is usually pretty good about patching bugs and patching issues. There were some issues with 8.0.1 and now 8.0.2 is out, which seems to have corrected those issues at the time of this video. Software seems pretty fluid. Some of the apps I have are still having issues with iOS 8. For example, Hangouts does not communicate with my Google contacts, and so I don't get any sync of contacts in Hangouts, which is pretty frustrating. Basically, all my numbers that just come up, all my conversations come up as numbers. They don't come up as my contacts, and so that's sort of annoying. I've got to resort to my Android phone if I want pure Hangout integration as far as right now on iOS 8. It is smooth, it is fast, it doesn't have any lag, which is typical of iPhones. No other major hiccups or drawbacks, I would say, from iOS 8. No word on jailbreaking as of yet, but typical of your standard iPhone. And getting into that, in terms of it's typical of a standard iPhone, is probably my biggest critique of this phone and my criticism of it, is that it's just another iPhone. You know, I pick this up, I pick up the 5S, pick up the 5, they're all the same. Apple, you know, is very much a creature of habit. They introduce new things very, very slowly. And so if you're a diehard Apple fan, you might actually really like this phone. It might be a big enough improvement for you to jump up to the next iteration of phone. And conversely, if you're a diehard Apple fan and you've been reluctant to get a larger size Android because of the fact that you might not like such a huge phone, well, then Apple has left you in the dust. In traditional Apple fashion, they have decided to leave out the option for choice in hardware. They've made two phones, both of which are big, certainly compared to their old standard. And so if you like a small size phone, you're stuck. And so, you know, this is just Apple. It's what we've come to expect. It's what we've come to learn is what they do with their hardware. Very limited in terms of what you can do with the device. Very limited in terms of hardware choice. Basically, you get colors, yay, but not really a whole host of features like you can with Android. So, you know, it's a great phone. I think it's a nice improvement over the 5S. I really enjoy my iPhone 6. Is it going to pull me away from Android? Not at this time. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check out everything else I have on YouTube, and rate, comment, and subscribe. Thanks.